Welcome everyone to another edition of Play It Through, and on this edition is Chakan the Forever Man, brought to us by Sega. Chakan is based on a comic book by Robert A. Krause and was developed by Extended Play Productions. The game was also released for the Sega Genesis. However, there are of course differences between this version and the Genesis version, most of having to do with the Game Gear having less powerful hardware than the Genesis. The story revolves around our main character, who is an unmatched swordsman. He was challenged to a duel against death and afterwards was cursed with eternal life. And now the only way to break the curse is to defeat the 4 supernatural evils. So here we go with Chakan for the Sega Game Gear.
Chakan the Forever.
After the name of our character and a voice sample plays over, you can press start in order to start right into the game. However, if you wait at the title screen for a little bit of time, you'll get a more in-depth story, which actually takes several minutes to scroll through. Unfortunately, it does take about 10 or 15 seconds though, but eventually the story will play. That definitely has to be one of the longest story sequences of any game on the Sega Game Gear. After the story is played out, it'll go then back to the title screen, and after that wonderful voiceover once again, we'll press start, and now we get to select our difficulty. The 3 difficulties are Wicked, which is easy, Deadly, which is normal, and Mental, which is hard, and we'll be playing on the Deadly difficulty. In order to unlock the final level of the game, you have to at least play on Deadly or Mental. The game is pretty challenging and it takes a little bit of getting used to. One of the cool features about Chakan is of course the sword play, being able to attack in all directions depending upon where you press an attack. You can also do a double jump at any point, which we'll be using quite often, and while doing a double jump you can also do a slash spinning attack, which is one of the most useful moves in the game. You may have noticed that at the hub world, I instead of going to level 1, have traveled to level 6. You can complete the game's levels in any order that you like, which is one of the really cool features about the game. And I find starting at level 6 and going downwards one of the easier strategies, as you'll unlock different swords which will help you in the earlier levels of the game without having to really do any backtracking. Throughout the game, there's a few items that we'll be grabbing, including 3 other swords, which we'll be grabbing the first one here. When you reach the top of this lava-filled level, go into the second door from the left, and inside you'll end up finding the fire sword. Once you go back out, you'll go back to the very beginning of the level, unfortunately, and have to travel back through it. Level number 6, as you can see, is completely filled with lava. There are firebirds, as well as statues that spit fireballs out of their mouth. When jumping through this area, just be careful. You'll be able to see far enough ahead that whether you have to do a regular jump or a double jump in order to reach the next platform. Standing in the lava will quickly drain your health. When you land on a platform, you may want to wait a second or so for the firebird to go away. And of course, you can defeat these enemies, but they take quite a few amount of hits with the current weapons that we have, so it's best to ignore them. When you reach the top again, ignore all the other doors. Enter the door at the top in order to enter the first boss fight. Now, the first boss fight can be rather challenging with the weapon we have, but there's a few strategies here. While doing the jumping, spinning, slash attack, you're invulnerable while you're currently spinning around. You can use this in order to go through the enemy and not take any damage from the fireballs. When low to the ground, just move back and forth left and right, hitting him with the swords when you get underneath of them. Ducking and slowly crawling around a little bit will help you dodge some of the higher placed fireballs. If the distance is too great, either duck and roll if there's no fire currently on the ground, which you can do by ducking and then pressing the jump button, or you can do a double jump up into the air to try to avoid the fireballs that way. It's hard to tell when you're doing damage, but the sound effect of when you miss with an attack and when you land an attack is slightly different, so listen for those cues. It'll take quite a few hits in order to defeat the boss, but once you've done so, this is probably the toughest fight for us in the game. One thing I haven't mentioned up to this point though is our health system, which is located in the upper left corner, represented by a skull. The skull will slowly descend into the black box that it's currently in, and once it goes all the way away, you end up losing your life. However, since he is the Forever Man and can't actually die, all that happens is you get teleported out of the level and taken back to the hub world. One of the other cool things about the game is the potion system. There are 4 different types of potions for you to collect throughout the gameplay. You have the gray, the black, the green, and the yellow. Combining different potions will give you different abilities. And when you press the pause menu, you can see all the different abilities that you have. You can summon death with a green and a yellow, which just takes you back to the hub world, the same as dying. You can slow everything down with 2 grays. You can damage all enemies currently on screen with 2 yellows, confuse everything with a green and a gray. You can get brief invulnerability with 2 blacks, invisibility with 2 greens, do double damage for a period of time with a black and a yellow, and probably the most important, a black and a gray together in order to heal you, giving you full health again. That's the only way you'll be able to heal. Level number 5 is an ice-filled level. As we work our way through, we're going to this far left side up these ramps. Jumping into the wall, we'll be able to travel through and find our next sword. You notice at the very beginning of the stage, I did equip the fire sword. Being an ice-based level, the fire sword does more damage to all enemies, especially the boss of this world. Once grabbing the ice sword, drop all the way down into the water below and travel through. Be careful of the fish. They're going to try to torpedo their way towards you, and eventually you'll get out of the area and see a giant waterfall going up. Ride the waterfall to the top. You'll probably get hit multiple times by the enemies, and once you reach the top, go over to the right to go to the boss fight for level 5. Stay on the far left side of the boss. When he appears, attack him multiple times, then get ready to do a double jump up into the air. Sometimes he'll just pop up and go right back down. Other times he'll raise his claw over on the left side, hitting you if you're standing there. And other times he'll fire a laser. He'll mix this up, so be on your toes, have a good amount of health, and just attack a couple of times, and then double jump to try to avoid any of the attacks that may be coming your way. The reason I suggest always doing a double jump is in case you jump once and the claw starts coming out, the double jump will ensure that you escape the claw coming out. Once level 5 is complete, time to just travel a little bit farther down and head into level number 4. When we get to level number 4, well, we're going to equip our new sword, the Ice Sword. In this part, keep doing double jumps and the spin slash while going through in order to attack the flying enemies in this area. Be careful of the very large blue and orange creatures on the ground, as these will damage you, so don't move too quickly through the area. When you reach the end of the area, it'll take you inside for the main portion of the stage. Now this is a little maze-like, and there's some pretty tough skeleton guys. The way to deal with them though is by doing the double jump and the slash in order to hit them multiple times. It can be finicky though, so be careful when you do this that you actually are landing all the hits so that they are destroyed. If you're slightly off, you'll do the spin but end up stopping before they die and end up getting hit. Here you can travel upwards in order to grab a yellow potion, and then you want to drop down 2 levels and start heading to the right. The chamber will open up a little bit and you'll have a locked door here. There's also some more skeletons around. The one in the top here can be difficult to hit because you have a more open area to do the spin slash. The ones in the small corridors are easy to take care of. Enter the locked door here, jump up to grab the black potion, and then go through the locked door on the right side. If you don't have a key at that time, destroy the skeleton in order to go through. Next room, go into the door right next to the one you're currently in. In this small little chamber, grab the green potion on the left, kill the skeleton for another key, and then go through the door. Immediately, you're attacked by another skeleton. Simple thing, destroy them, enter the door in order to go to the boss. This boss is rather challenging. My strategy is to duck and crawl back and forth delivering attacks, sometimes delivering an attack or two and then backing away immediately, keeping her off balance, and while she'll try to attack you usually straight up, sometimes she will duck down and try to stab you that way. By doing the back away, you'll usually be able to avoid the low hits which she tries to do when crouching. This battle can get drawn out a little bit, but overall I find the crouching and moving back and forth to be the best strategy. Once the boss is done, we'll be back at the hub world, and we're actually going to have to go back to level 4, going back through it in order to get the Thunder Sword, the third and final sword. In the hub world itself though, there is one of each color potion that you can pick up. Since my health has gotten a little bit low, I want to make sure that I'll be able to fix it and refill it in case it does get really low. After moving around and collecting the potions in the hub world, I go back into level number 4. Thankfully though, when going back through a level you've already completed, in case you missed an item, all the enemies are still defeated. In fact, they don't come back at all. Now, these things on the ground, unfortunately, will still hit you, so be careful of those. But all the skeletons and flying enemies are gone, and you don't have to refight the boss. The only negative though is you do have to go back all the way through the level in order to get back to the boss chamber. So, just follow the same path that we took before. Here I'll do a very quick edit to get back to the boss chamber itself. Once you get in, quickly roll 3 times all the way to the right side, do a quick jump in order to grab the Thunder Sword, because after only a second or two of being there, they'll automatically teleport you back to the hub world, so you have to be fast at doing the rolls and grabbing the sword. Once back at the hub world, head to level 3. Here, we're going to be equipping our new Thunder Sword, which is arguably the best sword in the game because it actually fires out a projectile, and it works well on pretty much all the creatures for the rest of the game that we're going to be fighting. Here, you're going to drop down, and you're going to have to watch out the entire time in this room for all the spears trying to stab you. Doing quick rolls will definitely help you avoid taking too much damage. Jump up here, up the waterfall, and go through the center gate. If you try to go through the gate on the left or right, you're teleported back to the hub world. That's unfortunately one of the tricks of the game, is that picking a wrong door, you end up going all the way back out of the level entirely. In the second area, just work your way down, go through this big open area, and then when you make it to the bottom, go through the wall on the right, and you'll be teleported up a giant waterfall all the way to the top. Drop all the way down, and it's time for the next boss. This boss bounces everywhere. The best strategy though for this is to counteract with your own jumping. Doing the jumping spin slash attack will prevent you from taking any damage from the boss and allow you to keep hitting the boss over and over again with your Thunder Sword. It'll only take a few seconds, and once the boss is defeated, we'll go back to the hub world and it's time to head to level number 2. Level number 2 can be pretty challenging. I have some trouble with these mantis-like enemies at the very beginning. You'll see a few of these throughout. I try to jump and avoid them as much as possible. They take quite a few amount of hits. After the first hallway, you're going to want to jump your way up to the top. Be careful though, when you reach the top, there's going to be one of those mantis-like enemies right there ready to attack, so do some jump slashes in order to defeat him before trying to actually jump up on the platform where he's located. It'll take quite a few, but eventually they'll go down. Drop down this large corridor, and eventually when you reach the bottom, there's going to be some spiders waiting for you. I find hugging the right wall will cause the spiders to spawn a little bit farther left of you, and won't spawn directly underneath you when you land after that big fall. While climbing up here, jump to a platform, then duck for a second, wait for the spider to retreat, and then continue your way up. You'll fall once again through another big area, and once here, try to do double jumps to avoid landing on the spiders themselves. Sometimes you can get lucky and have them both stuck together at one spot, so you don't have to jump over two of them. Here, do a big leap over another one of those big creatures and go through the door located here. The next area is similar to the next one. In fact, you may think that it's the same area, but nope, it's actually a new area. Jump over the first enemy the best way that you can. Sometimes you'll have to take a hit or two. Then, when you make it over here, jump up and work your way up. Drop down here. If you wanted a potion, you could go farther up that one corridor, but you want to drop down, avoid another one of those big creatures, watch out for spiders before trying to jump up here. There's a whole lot of the spiders in this area, and even when you jump over them, as you can see, they'll fire projectiles, so you want to try not to land directly on those either. Take out any spider that may be close to the edge of this platform before going over and dropping down for the boss fight. For the boss, fire a couple of hits and then roll to the opposite side of the area. Stand up only if a projectile is not directly above you, and then keep repeating the process of rolling. As long as you're rolling or ducked down, the boss cannot hit you, giving you plenty of opportunities to move back and forth and to deliver hits to the boss. It'll take a lot of rolling since you'll only be able to do a couple of hits before you'll have to roll again to the opposite side, but it's the best strategy for avoiding getting hit. Once the boss is defeated, we'll go back to the hub, and it's time to go now to level 1. Level number 1 starts in a pretty big open area. Do some spin slashes to avoid some of the flying enemies and work your way up the large hill. Eventually you'll start seeing rocks roll and come at you. When you make it over to the far right wall here, you may want to wait a second for a rock to go over your head before jumping up. Jump over this guy and start attacking him a bunch of times. When you see a whole bunch of rocks flying everywhere, quickly get out of the area and wait for that to dissipate, and the enemy will then disappear as well before going over. If you stand there, you'll take about 3 or 4 hits before the enemy ends up disappearing. In the next chamber, work your way over to the right side, defeat the enemies here in order to pick up a key. In the next room, do some jumps or rolls in order to make your way over to the far right side. There's a bunch of projectiles coming your way. This room can get quite annoying. Once over to the right, the enemy will end up spawning. Defeat the enemy, pick up the key, and then retreat to the door just left of the end of the room. In the next chamber, destroy the floating eyeball and then wait on the bottom platform for a few seconds as the enemy will show up and you can grab the next key. You have to grab the key from this guy as no of the other enemies will spawn while you're working your way up, watching out for the eyes that are coming at you. Thankfully, the eyes projectiles don't hurt you, they just stop you in your tracks for a few seconds. For the next boss, roll over to the right side and duck down right here, attacking the boss with projectiles. Every so often the boss will jump, but when he does, he'll always land on a platform above you. This way you can then roll over to the opposite side, wait for him to go down, and then keep repeating attacking him. Just keep going back and forth left and right in order to fully defeat him. Now we'll sit back and enjoy the ending and credits to the game, but nope, the game isn't over yet, as long as you're playing on the normal or hard difficulties. While the credits are going, I have to admit that I really do like Chakan. I think it's a really interesting game, and I always played the Genesis version, and only recently had started getting into the Game Gear version. While the Genesis version is overall superior to the Game Gear version, this one definitely is a fun, portable game for the system. While no direct sequels were made for the series did continue in comic book form. There was a live-action movie that I unfortunately have not seen from 2012, as well as there was a planned sequel. However, most of the assets for the planned sequel ended up becoming the game known as Blood Omen 2. After some more story and getting to see another cutscene of Chakan in death, you'll be back at the hub world in front of the new Level 7. Inside the level itself, start heading down and to the right, watching out for the guns that will pop out of the ground. On the far right, roll your way through a series of platforms to slowly maneuver yourself down. Over here, you'll be in an area with some chambers, but you can just avoid these and go down to the very bottom floor. Once down here, there are two teleport chambers on the left and right sides behind guns. This is pretty cryptic, but you have to go inside here and attack, facing either left or right. Whichever way you're facing when you attack depends on where you teleport. Either way, teleport and then teleport back so that you can get out in the open and fight the boss. Do jump spin attacks relentlessly in order to keep hitting the boss. Just move slightly left or right to avoid the missiles as he has them raining down on you. For a final boss of the game, he's quite easy to defeat as long as you keep doing the jump and spin attack. After he's defeated, the game is over, and all you get though is one last screen, the end for now, with your final score located at the bottom. You can then press any button, you'll go back to the title screen, and you can start the game all over again. But with that, that's going to wrap up this edition of Play It Through. I'd like to thank you for watching, and of course, I hope you enjoyed.